Welcome back, everybody, to another little segment here of the Cultureverse podcast. Obviously, as you guys can tell if you're watching, this is for the listeners as well. There's no Caleb today. The reason that is because Tyler's giving a round of applause. So is Jack. The reason that is because we are doing our recap, our review over Daredevil Born Again. The season just ended. They just dropped the last episode. We obviously watched it. And now we're getting right into it. Caleb has not seen Daredevil for whatever reason. He's
Idiot.
working on it. Hopefully he better have it watched by the time season two comes out. So yeah, but obviously this is your spoiler warning. I mean, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about what happens in episodes. If you don't want to know, leave and come back. Make sure you start the episode though. That way you have it written down for progress and you can come back later and watch it. But yeah, so let's just kind of jump right in. I mean, we're reviewing the entire season as a whole. If you want, we can break it down by certain episodes, or if you want, you can just talk. So anybody who has a point, a moment, a scene, anything you want, throw it out there and we can just kind of get into a discussion here.
Well, I want to start by saying this might start controversy. We'll see. I did not think that this show was as good as the original.
You
So,
got my agreement, pal.
Okay. I just feel like that was like the first thing that should have been brought up is comparing the old show to this.
right.
That's inevitable.
That's fair. Absolutely. I'm going to agree with you, but I think it's still very good. I think it had a really high ceiling. I think coming after the three seasons of Daredevil is no easy feat, especially
No.
given, the job they had as well. It wasn't just following those three seasons, but it was new writers, new directors, a different time, different Marvel. Like, how do you manage to keep a show that happened 10 years ago going? So this was really difficult for them to do. And I will give them all the credit in the world for doing what they did because I will say I enjoyed it a lot. That being said, I agree, Tyler. It's not as good as the original, which I don't know. Did you guys expect it to be? I don't know. I don't think I
No, because like you said, that's a very tall task to
Yeah.
do.
yeah. Like I don't
But
my
yeah.
expectations were like through the I mean, I was excited, but I wasn't like, oh shit, this is gonna be just as this is gonna pick up right after season three. It's like, no, we knew it was gonna be tough. But kind of going off of that, let's start with some high notes. What were some things that you guys felt were done very well with this season? What were some of the things that you guys thought stood out or really
Uh,
enjoyed it?
I have something that's, I know we're trying to talk about high notes, but it kind of comes together with a con, which is a reasonable con. This is something that's hard to do with a time jump, kind of like what we talked about, how hard it is to follow up on that.
Mhm.
This isn't, season four made a year or two after season three. We have all the same actors already lined up, the
Right.
same writers. Like this is a new writing team. We're trying to fit it into the MCU box so it makes sense storyline wise. You're not going to be able to bring everybody back. I'm glad that we got who we got back.
Mhm.
That being said, what I want to say, I think they did a good job of. Now you can argue how well they use them, but I think they did a good job adding new characters into the story while still bringing back legacy characters from before. I don't think like any of I'm not going to sit here and stake that the new characters are better than any of the old characters, but I thought they were good complementary characters. And some of them I really was not even sold on at first.
Mhm.
Say one comes to mind specifically like Daniel. First couple episodes of
Mhm.
Daniel, I'm like,
Mm,
please shut the fuck up and get out of
Right.
my sight. And by the end, it's like, it's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah.
Like to see Fisk literally sculpt a smaller version of himself. And
Yeah.
I am
Sculpting another
interested.
Wesley. That's what he's doing.
Exactly.
Ah,
That's exactly
I mean,
what.
he's
kind
not
of.
he's not as good
Buck
as
is
Wesley. He's
it.
not. uh,
Buck is kind of
okay, yeah.
the new Wesley-esque figure, and I like Buck too. I mean, he's not
He's
better than
okay.
Wesley, but once again, I think that's a. It's not just some nameless face that I don't give a shit about. Like actually, I find Gabe. How many times during the episode do I go, "Thank you, Buck"? I
Many.
I probably said that like half a dozen times during this episode. I like him.
No, he's
Um, I
yeah.
think Heather was a good I think she's a quality love interest, especially with the way they go with Karen. Kind of seems like they're not going to, ever really end up together. Um they also seem to be teasing potentially. They can't seem to decide if they want Karen to be with Frank or if, with her to be with Matt.
Frank's never
And
gonna deal with another person.
yeah, exactly. I don't know if Frank would really ever be with another person, but I also don't know if Matt and Karen will literally ever work because it's always been an on-off, unstable type of thing. So I don't mind the idea of bringing in a character like Heather. And then you think she's just going to be like a one-off love interest, but now they have this interesting dynamic with her working for Fisk and how that's another, tie between Matt and I almost said Wilson. No one calls him that. Matt and Fisk.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and I like Cherry. I've seen a lot of people say that should be Brett. I agree.
Yeah,
I like Cherry. I
he's
would rather have both of them. I like both of them. Brett is my goat, but I do like Cherry as well. So I'm just, and then the one I obviously haven't said, introducing Muse. I know Tyler has takes about how they use him and use him to his full extent, but introducing him as a character was a great move, I think. And I think they, brought him up and built him up pretty well. Could they have done more with him? Yes, Tyler, I will agree with you on that. But because I'm assuming you're going to say something about that. But I did like the way they built him up well. So I would just like to give them props for actually continuing the story and not just kind of clutching on to nostalgia from the first show. They're actually trying to build something new at least. And it's pretty good.
Yeah. Tyler, do you want to go with what you like, or do you want me to go?
you can go. I'll
Okay.
follow.
What really, really got me with this season was everything involving the movement, the action, the choreography, all of it. I loved all of it. And one of the ones that I love the most, and I know Jack's gonna disagree with me on this one, is that Matt feels like a superhero now. He's doing acrobatic things. He's flipping, he's swinging, he's jumping. That is how superheroes are supposed to feel. And they just didn't do it in the Netflix series because, they didn't exactly have the budget. They didn't want to make it look good because it would have looked horrible back then in the Netflix series with the money they had.
Would
So
have?
what?
No comment.
I
I
okay.
said would have.
I, you had your turn, but it's my turn.
Yeah,
They,
shut up,
Yes,
nerd.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm muting myself.
I just think it would have. I just think it looked great. I really enjoyed everything that they did with the fighting, the choreography, the moving. Specifically, I think of the scene from that first episode, obviously in the very beginning when we see him. When he realizes what's happening and he goes and switches into the suit and we see him running across the roof and the shot of him jumping down onto like that stairwell at the top is so good. And then we see later when he's chasing Bullseye to the top of the roof, he literally like swings up behind him and hits one of the greatest superhero poses. Uh, the movement was just on peak. I thought that the CGI worked. I enjoyed the way it looked, but then the fighting choreography was super good. I loved every fight in the show. I love how they were unafraid to be brutal, especially with this last episode. Cannot believe that we just watched this man Fisk pop a man's head. That was
That
insane.
was awesome.
That was crazy.
That was awesome.
They clearly weren't afraid of action in the show, and I will
Mm-mm.
ever love them for that because that was everyone's biggest concern was they're going to PG-13 Daredevil, and that's not what you do. So that's my biggest thing. They did a really good job at keeping it good. It was enjoyable. The fighting was fun. Like that's just what I wanted to see. So that was my biggest thing.
Well, Gabe, I'm gonna completely agree with you. The fighting, the choreography, all of that was amazing in this show. Jack, when it comes to your take, I'm going to completely think the opposite. Outside of Daniel, I did not care for any of the side characters.
Not
I
a
really
Chief
didn't.
Gallo guy or a BB Urich? Can't
Not
get anything
really.
there?
No, not really.
I like that.
I like Sherry was fine, I guess, but like no, he should have been Brett by a mile. His his law
Agree.
partner, she's there. She's literally there.
You are not Foggy.
And Heather, honestly, she pissed me off more than anything, especially in that one episode where she compared Daredevil to Muse. That's
She was
insane.
like, I saved myself.
That's crazy. If
Yeah,
Daredevil's not there,
yeah.
she's literally dead.
He dies.
But for my choice of something that I enjoyed a lot, my biggest fear going to this show is that they were going to somehow find a way to make Matt in their own version, and
Mm.
they did not do that. They kept with what the original show did, and I thought they did much better than what the show did with Matt. I thought they went above and beyond with not only his powers but his mannerisms and everything like that. I thought he was that character was amazing in the show.
Yes, I agree with that completely.
It's valid.
Going off of that, that kind of reminds me, one of my favorite things in the show, and it's such a minor thing, the amount of detail they did to whenever Matt is like sensing is so good.
Mhm.
With the fishbowl lens, with the camera zooming, that was so small, but it was, and like the aspect ratio changing, well done. Because that, and they did that as well with, I mean, we'll get into this more when we talk about Bullseye, but they do that with Bullseye as well by changing the vision and the colors and like,
Oh, dude, the episode,
felt
what was
like
it,
a
eight?
comic.
Episode 8, when they changed everything to blue or everything to red, that was so cool. That
It
was so
felt
cool.
well, it what they did was it felt like a comic book. It felt the way that a
Hmm.
superhero show should feel. And I think that you make a good point there, Tyler, talking about like how they just didn't change Matt and they did well with Matt. One of the things that I also love that they did with Matt is the personal side to him. We saw him fight arguably more in internal conflict than we've like almost ever seen him fight. Like
Hmm.
seeing him wrestle with wanting to kill a man is something that we've seen
Oh
before,
yeah.
but not to this extent. I mean, this was we we started off disliking the decision to kill Foggy, and I'm gonna say it, I don't hate it. I don't anymore.
Mhm.
I think it set up this season to exactly what we needed, which was something that made Matt truly question what it means to be Daredevil. And what I mean, I don't know if anything else would have really done that unless maybe Karen died. Like someone close to him needed to have something happen for him to truly question what it meant to be a superhero because that's the only thing that would have pushed him to kill somebody. I mean, we literally see in season 3 a moment where he absolutely has every right in his mind to kill Kingpin, and he still doesn't. So at that point, it's like, man, is anything going to cause this guy to kill someone? Yeah, there's something, and they did it, and that's exactly what sends him down like just this path of destruction, basically, of his own identity, which I don't like. My issue is more so how quickly they decided to do it, how quickly they kill him
Mhm.
off. But I don't have an issue with the decision. I really don't.
You imagine if they killed him in the episode we just watched and then gave you like
Uh,
5 or 6 months before the second season?
that would
Probably
have
more than that.
well then you wouldn't have had the entire season of him questioning like how what it means to be Daredevil. Like it would have just been him just picking up from where he was and still being like you needed it to happen earlier than later so that way he could have his whole I'm not Daredevil anymore. I'm not they don't need me because otherwise it was just going to be nothing's different. He's just back again and now we're picking up with Fisk and whatnot. So if you wanted that turmoil, you needed something to happen. And
I I would never have killed him before at least the mid-season. Like I would have maybe killed him at the mid-season finale.
I wouldn't have
But
killed him. He's too precious to me.
that's option number one. I
well,
would not have done that in general.
what would you guys have done to make him stop trying to be a vigilante? Like what do you
Probably
think?
wouldn't have.
See, that's what
That's the whole point of
I
this.
would have just gone a
Daredevil
different way with the
Born
story.
Again, as in
No, I'm just saying I wouldn't have made it called Board Again. I would have made a different storyline.
I
Am I
agree.
just gonna come up with that on the spot now? No, but I would come up with a different compelling story.
All right, we can. I just am saying after we've gotten through it all and now we have hindsight, obviously, I do like the way that it's played out. I think it's played out well. I think that the concept ended up working. The Born Again is really, I mean, it's on the nose, but it's exactly what happens. This is a different. I mean, you mentioned it's the same Matt and the same Daredevil Tyler. It is, but it's also not. Like it's a different. We saw the character development. It's not like they just gave us a new Matt. Like we saw how he's more willing to walk in that gray area now because he's not fully sure of what it means to really be a hero. I mean, obviously we see him there, especially in this episode 9, still telling Frank like don't kill people, still don't. But like he's hitting a lot harder than he used to. He's he's not just putting them in a good old one night in the hospital. He's like breaking jaws. He snapped a leg backwards. Like he's clearly feeling more anger, which don't blame the guy, But so I think in that sense, I've really enjoyed. I mean, I have enjoyed the season. I think it worked really well. But it's I mean, with that, if we want, we can kind of get into some of the things that have bothered us as well, obviously. And one of the biggest that I want to get into, and this is kind of, I don't know, I'll see what you guys think about this. I really don't care what sort of hurdles you have to jump over. There's no reason we're not. teasing any sort of other superheroes in the show. There's no reason we don't have any other than the slight mention. There's no reason that we don't have, especially with that episode 9. Like they want to connect it to the MCU, and all we got was Kamala Khan's dad. That I just don't like that. I think that Tyler, you can throw in something, I guess.
Gabe wanted Kamala there.
I got edged twice in this episode. First off, when the commissioner gets into his car and he looks in the front seat and says Luke,
Cage.
I immediately thought Luke Cage.
Yep.
Because first off, he looked exactly like Luke Cage.
So they panned
But
him.
obviously, it's not Luke Cage.
I
So
thought-
that was very disappointing. And then when Matt brings up the fact that we need to make an army,
Build an army.
Yes.
I thought he was going to bring the defenders in, but no, it's just more.
It was just a bunch of chump cops.
It's a
So
bunch of chumps.
That's my point with my complaint here is I just don't I just at this point I don't care how many hurdles you have to jump over. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. Get the rights to characters. And
Buy it out.
And you know I'm a Spider-Man fan, but why is he not showing up at any point in this show?
Spider-Man should be in this.
With the place where where Peter is right now, why is he not showing up?
Oh my
Especially
God.
with what just
Especially when the lights go out. Yeah.
Dude,
what just happened in episode 9. What an event that needs a superhero to show up for. And
bro lives down the block.
he's
He's literally there.
he just sit, and like your argument can't be, well, maybe he just doesn't care. Clearly Peter's in a place.
Maybe he
No,
doesn't
he's
care.
there without.
I don't
without
even
a-
care. Like maybe he's in that
Yeah.
phase where
No, I'm gonna
he's
say
like,
you don't say that.
I'm saying maybe he's in that, like maybe people will say maybe he's in that phase where he's focusing more on Peter than like being Spider-Man. It's the exact opposite. We literally got shown that in No Way Home. He is fully dedicated to
even
being
even still, if Peter is sitting at home when the entire city of New York blacks out, that's not Peter.
No,
Respectfully, that is not Peter.
it's a scroll. Like
It's a
It's a
scroll.
there's just
That's
Could it be a scroll?
there's just no reason that we don't get any characters even kind of showing up. And I've also seen arguments of, well, then that would ruin it's Daredevil, not Daredevil and Spider-Man. Why was Punisher in it? Why was
Yeah,
Superman in it?
yeah.
Why was any other character in it? Like cameos make shows and movies better. Whether you're going to admit it or not, they definitely do when done right. And we didn't get shit for cameos other than Frank, who we already knew was going to be in it. So it's just kind of like that's my biggest complaint is for a show that is now in the MCU, we didn't really do jack shit to tie it to the MCU other than here's Kamala Khan's dad and she's got a Miss Marvel Funko Pop. I was like, fuck you. Where's Spider-Man? Like it's just and all we get is a half-ass name drop. Dressing up in spider costumes. Say his name, you coward.
I
What's
mean,
his name?
I don't think he legally can, but
But that's my complaint.
Just give him the finger. Pay the lawsuit.
Use your ridiculous bag of money and just buy the rights. Stop playing fucking footsie with Sony and buy Spider-Man. You know they can. They're just being cheap about it, which Sony's also being pricks, but they're also being smart. They're like, you can throw a little more.
holding him hostage.
They know what they're doing. Like they're
$1 trillion, my friends.
So like
You got a deal.
on one hand, it's annoying that Sony's doing this, but on the other hand, you just know Marvel's being cheap. And at some point, they're gonna have to do it. I mean, at some point, they can't just keep dancing around it, especially when he's gonna be as important as he's going to be. Like at some point, it's gonna happen. And the more popular Tom Holland gets, the more that price tag raises. And they're just sitting on it, just waiting. So I'll let you guys get into your complaints. That was one of my biggest ones. And it's not just because I'm a Spider-Man fan. It could have been anybody. It could have just been okay, not anybody. If it was Miss Marvel, I would have killed someone. But it could have been like
Hulk?
any of the
Nova.
any of the defenders. Luke Cage would have been awesome. Okay, not any of the defenders. Iron Fist would have pissed me off.
There's a list of select characters Gabe has blacklisted
They're
here.
the smallest of characters that would have show up. Honestly, I would have been more pissed if one of those characters did show up because they'd be like, okay, so clearly you could do it, but you pick these guys, which is kind of how I feel about Kamala Khan's dad, just being like, hey,
This is the guy you picked.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Tyler, you got one right off the bat. You want me to?
No,
Start
I'll hop
cooking.
into my two my two big complaints. One of them kind of has two parts to it. For starters, I don't think 9 episodes, hell, 8, because that bank robbery episode doesn't count,
Yes,
is enough. There's no way
he's on
that
it.
you could have actually told this full thing with just 9. And secondly, that kind of goes hand with this. I thought structurally this show was all over the place. In the first two episodes, I was expecting us to get some elite rivalry storyline between Fisk and Matt, but after that, those two episodes, we don't get a single interaction from them until episode 8. Um, with the cops, same thing. After the first few episodes, we get nothing until hell episode 9 with this one. I thought Punisher was very underutilized, extremely underutilized. And then obviously the whole Muse thing, I that was so disappointing. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but they
To an extent.
they
Keep
set
cooking.
this guy up to be the big bad, and then they use him in the last what 10 minutes of episode, I think it was 6, I believe, and then they kill him off in the next episode. They don't even do the character correctly. They don't give him powers. He's supposed to be Daredevil's like toughest opponent because one of his powers is the ability to create a vortex of sensory, which allows it so Daredevil can't sense him at all. And they don't do that. Instead, they just have Daredevil beat the crap out of him twice. Um, those are my two biggest complaints. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I will say I
You're an idiot.
don't know if this is completely correct. I thought Muse didn't get his powers until he gets resurrected. I thought he
Don't
died.
know. I just know he has powers.
Oh, like Foggy?
I'm pretty sure he's powerless and then dies and then gets resurrected and gets his powers, which a lot of people are saying that absolutely could be the path they're going down. I don't know. Regardless of if it is or isn't, here's what I'll say. I agree, but I disagree. What I agree with is I do think that he was underutilized. I think we should have gotten more out of a character like that. What I disagree, I don't think he was ever, for me, framed as the big bad. It's always been Kingpin. It's always been Fisk. This was just going to be to me, this was just the hand again. It was just, here's a side villain for him to deal with. But I don't think that should only last 2.5 episodes. A side villain should be for the season because it's the side villain. You use it's not. I mean, and I get it. Like on one hand, I guess Muse is kind of at this point weak because he doesn't have his powers. Which if that whole thing I said is correct with like the whole resurrection thing gets powers, then I think that could be utilized really well. But like, it's not shocking that he defeated him. I mean, he's not exactly like okay, he's a black belt in Taekwondo. That's about it.
Oh,
And then he paints. Like he's not exactly the biggest threat. And pretty much like you said, every time they fight, I don't know if he gets a single hit in. Like
I don't
it's
think
pretty
so
much
either.
just Matt beating the piss out of him. And that's
Hmm.
I'm all here for it. But like
Yeah.
He has a couple counters, but no, it's
but
not.
no,
There's not really a chance.
he could have been used better. I agree completely because they really did good with like the making you like making your skin crawl, making you feel uncomfortable. Like they did good with that, and it made you like, oh shit, this is creepy. Like I want more of this. But like one of the biggest moments is when he's like messing with Heather. Like that shit's haunting. And then the really close up of him slowly cutting down her arm is awful. And then he gets killed in 5 minutes, and it's like that's it. Like he's gone. So like I agree with that. I hope they touch on it again and he does get resurrected and he gets powers or whatnot. If I'm pulling that out of my ass, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that's at least I saw a TikTok about it, but can't believe
I
it.
have heard that he could get
TikTok knows.
resurrected, but
But
that's
I,
just yeah.
I I understand your complaint for sure. And then what was your first
My other one was that one, it was too short. I thought 9 episodes was enough, and I thought structurally it was all over the place. We were constantly jumping back and forth.
yeah, I get that. I agree that it's too short. I think this is where I think okay, this isn't what I believe. This is just what it is. This is a filler. This is a welcome back to the world of Daredevil. Season two
Hmm.
is gonna be elite. That's how I'm taking this. Which on one hand I want more episodes. I agree, Tyler. It's not like I don't want more. Like obviously I want more, but to me this is like a showing you what we're capable of, and then we're gonna build up. And obviously, it was a filler with the way it ended. The ending was, I mean, it was into the Spider Verse or Beyond the Spider Verse
Yeah,
ending type setup. It was like it was how Beyond set up. It was the same kind of thing. It was like we need to build a team, and it was like, oh hell yeah! But now we're gonna end it. So that's kind of why I think it lacks in length. But I wish it didn't.
yeah. Jack, you got anything?
Tyler, my list in my head was that it's not long enough and that it was all over the place. Like just because, which I know this is partially like a choice on purpose because if I believe that's how it kind of played out with we used to think we were getting 18 episodes
Yeah,
and
it
then
had to
it
go.
kind
It
of
had to
yep,
reshoot a lot of things, which
they
is
they
part of the reason why
reshot,
they're probably all over the place.
shrunk it down, and now it's 9, but supposedly from what I've, Googled and read, as Gabe said, we can always trust that. But the second season's supposed to be coming out like with in under a year.
No,
Is it longer than that now? The most
2027
recent
is
time
when it's
up.
supposed to come out.
What the fuck? Okay, ratings going down.
How do
I
they?
So
was positive it was coming out in 2026. That pisses me
no.
off. I'm giving it less credit now.
That's
This needed to be incredibly longer then. If you weren't splitting it so that you could make the season a little bit earlier and then make the second season shortly after, waiting 2 years to make a second season to this is outrageous, giving
Dude,
us
we
nine
get we get
episodes.
Daredevil and Secret Wars in the same year.
Wow, it should be a 1 year before.
Uh,
No, that's if that's actually true that it's 2027, I'm mildly outraged. And I also lied to my entire family. So I'm gonna have to
just don't
repent
tell
for
them.
that
Just
one.
wait for a year, and they'll be like, "Hey, when's
That's
Daredevil
messed
coming out?"
up.
Oh, next year, actually.
I lied. Anyway, no, well, in that case, thinking of it that way, yeah, this needed to be at least 13 episodes like the other seasons because I think that hindered it in terms of like a writing standpoint. It's harder to build up tension and build up longer storylines. Like all the other Daredevil seasons were building towards something at the end. And hell, even season 2 of Daredevil, which is widely considered the weakest of the three, has like two separate whole storylines going on that they build up throughout the whole thing. Whether you love the Ham storyline, I don't know, but it is a built-up quality storyline over the course of an entire season. And the other storyline is, of course, the Frank Castle storyline. They focus on those two, and they're able to focus on the and build them across this whole 13 episode season. They have time to use. This 9 episodes is not enough to produce the same quality. It's such an impossible task for a writing team to do with shorter
And
episodes, frankly, shorter episodes and less episodes. That is
yeah,
so hard to do,
yeah, and then you
especially when
drop
one of them, yes,
is a filler, a stupid
yes,
filler.
you have
That's
no room for filler and
yeah,
with 9 episodes, and we still got one. And even some of the other episodes, it was like with what Tyler said, we'd just not address things, or they'd be spending too much time where they didn't need to be. We're not addressing the Punisher cops that we were introducing in the first or second episode. We are not like focusing on this. You got to focus on Matt and Fist dynamic more, or Matt and Frank's dynamic more. You gotta focus in on some of these things, and that just wasn't always happening. I yeah, that was just that's
bro took a deep breath.
I'm
yeah. Well,
well, the rage is boiling up.
according to this article I just read, it's going to most likely release in early to mid 2026.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Oh yeah, Tyler lied to me.
Well, that's at least the article that I'm reading right now. It says that that's kind of the way that they're looking at it, is that it will, you know,
It's I once again, by now you already know how I feel. If it's coming out in early 2026, they did not do it in a bad way. If
I
it
I don't know
if
what's
it's
going
coming
on.
out 2027, I'm furious. But 2026 is reasonable. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah,
I
so
don't
I mostly agree with what Tyler was talking about with just needing to focus in on places and it needs to be longer.
Fair enough. I think at the end of the day, it's just clear that they went through a creative overhaul. It's
Yeah.
just obvious that the season had an issue and they had to change it multiple times. There were several incidents like that just didn't make sense. One of them being I actually pointed out in this episode, Tyler. I don't know if you
Yeah.
caught it, but the fact that they're saying that Cold North is the one that killed Hector. Cold North wasn't even a part of the squad when that happened. He hadn't even
Mm-mm.
been recruited yet. So it was
Yeah.
clear that when it was clear that the current director is the one who took over, it's clear that they wanted it to go a certain way and that they
Yeah.
thought that the original directors had messed it up. So I think that overall it's
If
good.
we had those guys the whole time.
I think overall it's good that the creative haul happened. And I think that going forward it's gonna get I think we can expect very good things for season two since the creative
Yeah.
work happened because I think episodes 1, 8, and 9, the three that they did were all good. Like I thought they all did good, and it was just a matter of storytelling, and the rest were just kind of felt maybe out of place or put together weird. So it's just clear that this show had some growing pains. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so Now we're going to jump into our little non-spoiler reviews as well as our rating out of 5 stars, just so we can kind of upload that to social media and whatnot. Obviously, if you guys are listening, you know our thoughts, but you'll get our rating as well. So, who would like to start? Anybody? Anybody?
Gabe, if you want to go, you can go.
Okay.
So processing my words.
All right.
Hmm.
Uh, in my opinion, I thought that Daredevil Born Again season one was a refreshing return to a character who I very deeply love. I really enjoyed seeing Matt once again fighting all of the normal things that a human would fight. I mean, I love the human side of Matt where you feel what he feels, you understand why he's feeling this way. I thought that the choreography, the storytelling, the CGI, all of that was great. I really enjoyed it. It was just, unfortunately, the structure and the overall pacing that just kind of felt out of frame, out of place, just felt wrong. So, overall, I did have a really good time. I do agree that it might not be as good as the first 3 seasons. However, I still enjoyed almost every second of this. So, just getting Daredevil back alone, it gives me this a 4 out of 5.
All right, I'll do mine. So, like I already mentioned, I don't think this show is as good as the original show. That being said, there is still a lot of great things coming from this show. The fighting choreography is amazing. The lawyering in the first 2 episodes is something we desperately missed in the original show. And the talk with Frank, the first time we see him, was amazing. Honestly, one of the best things I've seen on television. Um, with this being said, when it comes to my cons, I thought structurally this show is all over the place, and there is definitely not enough episodes to really dive deep into this story, and that's a big reason why I don't have that high of a rating on it. I still enjoyed it a lot, but there I was just left left thinking like, where is this going? Why are we doing this? We're jumping everywhere. And when it came to the finale, I was kind of disappointed. I still enjoyed it. Like it's still a decent rating, but it was a giant, like you said, it's a giant beyond thing. Like it's just setting everything up. So
Mhm.
everything that's happening now is cool, but like it's not as interesting as what could have been. So I have this show right now as around a 3.5 range.
Sounds good.
I mean, for me, first and foremost, I'm just astonished that this was ever actually able to happen. That in and of itself is an accomplishment. And I'm so glad that we're still getting this character. They could have easily taken a lamer route and just wiped it clean, recast. Would have sucked, maybe, probably. But bringing a large majority of the feel of this show back was pretty well done with as impossible of a task that that's going to be with 9 episodes, shorter episodes, as I mentioned. That being said, I think this is also not going to be as good as the first 3 seasons of Daredevil, but the first 3 seasons of Daredevil are some of my favorite television seasons of all time. I'm talking 5 out of 5s for at least three and one, probably two as well. However, for this show, that doesn't mean that it's bad because I'm sitting at about a 3.5, 4 range. I'm going to say 3.5 today. I think that could age well. But ultimately, this is just an incredible teaser trailer, really, for a 9 episode teaser for a second season that I have incredibly high hopes and expectations for.
Yep, for sure. I mean, obviously, as we've talked about it, like Jack just said, at the end of the day, this is just kind of building up to what season two could be. And as we've already seen a couple leaked photos and whatnot from season two,
Oh my God, I
if
can't
you
wait.
guys haven't seen it, we're not going to say what it is, but great, great stuff. Some
Oh
really
my
cool
God.
stuff.
Best thing I've ever seen in my life.
One of the coolest things that I've been really hoping for. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys have seen all the episodes, let us know what you guys thought. I mean, obviously, we don't think that our opinions are the only ones that are right. We'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd like to hear any cases that you guys can make. But yeah, as always, thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next time.